The year is 2012, and it's been 64 years since London hosted the Summer Olympics.
Ladies and gentlemen.
As the London Symphony Orchestra prepares to kick off the opening ceremony, the camera pans towards a recognizable face, causing the crowd to absolutely lose it. He stumbles, fumbles, and looks incredibly bored, playing nonchalantness with just this unparalleled confidence. This seemingly awkward buffoon is actually one of the most genius comedic minds to have ever lived.
As a person, I don't like him at all. It's an escape.
Excuse me.
He's a genius, huh?
That's what they tell me.
The answer is...
I doubt that he will reappear, but you never know. You must never...
The people have spoken.
There's something funny about the way brilliance hides itself. You meet someone in the real world who's clearly sharp.
I tend to keep myself to myself a lot. I'm not on social media in any shape or form.
Someone whose brain runs laps around everyone else in the room. And then the second they choose to play the fool, people buy it without hesitation. The more I revisited Rowan Atkinson's work over the years, the more I realized that Mr. Bean is one of the best examples of a genius deliberately shrinking himself down into this helpless, clueless little creature. How can someone so intelligent become the modern blueprint for the dumb guy? Mr. Bean is such a simple character on the surface that it feels like he shouldn't work. He's practically silent.
The character didn't have a name. He didn't have to have a name because there were no words, and Mr. Bean seemed to be short, sharp, and to the point.
His objectives are always tiny. Get dressed, order food, take an exam. Stuff nobody would normally build a whole scene around. And yet, Atkinson turns these tiny tasks into full arcs. He turns the most basic human functions into puzzles. There's a level of precision in his physicality that people underestimate because he makes it look effortless. But if you really watch him, the timing is ruthless. Every eye flick, every pause, every confused squint is placed with surgeon-level discipline.
He's a child who's grown up physically but not mentally. And Bean is very, very mechanical, as you saw there. He's always got a very mechanical solution to any problem.
There's comedy built into the negative space around him. The way he holds a moment just a half a second too long. It's all intentional. You're watching a character who understands nothing while being played by someone who understands everything.
It's one of the most successful cultural exports in British history. I mean, right up there with tea and Paddington Bear.
Rowan Atkinson is doing the theatrical equivalent of playing chess against himself. One half calculates, the other half stumbles, and he has to do it without dialogue, without the usual comedic shortcuts. There's neither clever verbal punchlines or self-aware jokes about how weird he is. He never comments on himself. He just stays tapped in this little bubble where his facial expression has to shoulder every beat of the story. Most actors rely on words as their oxygen. Atkinson strips himself of that and still breathes perfectly fine.
He's a natural-born anarchist.
The massive rift between Rowan Atkinson and Mr. Bean only makes the performance more fascinating. Rowan is basically an engineer whose preferred medium happens to be comedy. He studied electrical engineering at Oxford. He writes with the logic of someone who wants every idea to be structurally sound. Even his approach to comedy is technical.
I just stood in front of a mirror, to be honest, and I just started pulling faces, for want of a better term.
He breaks it down into mechanics, setups, reactions, reversals. He treats laughter like a machine he can build from scratch. And when you understand how methodical he is, you start to notice the layers underneath Bean. The childlike wonder isn't naive, the confusion isn't random. He maps these things out like a blueprint. That's why the character never drifts into chaos. There's a straight and narrow line he follows, even when Bean doesn't appear to know where he's going. Part of the reason this character became a global phenomenon is because Rowan built himself like a universal language. You don't need subtitles for confusion. You don't need translation for awkwardness.
It was almost a deliberate act, I suppose. It was 50% a deliberate act to create a character that would have a global appeal. I'd explored it on stage, and I was interested in trying to put visual comedy through the character of Mr. Bean on TV.
And you don't need shared culture to understand a grown man wrestling with a deck chair or trying to outwit a turkey. He understood that silence is the quickest way to cross borders, and he understood that physical comedy ages differently.
And holding just a piece of paper, he made everyone laugh for 7 minutes without saying a word.
Anyway, it was something like that. It was...
You can watch a Bean skit from the early 90s and it still clicks because it's rooted in instinct. Every audience on Earth understands embarrassment. Everyone understands the panic of being judged. Bean is a child living in an adult's world, and that's what made him universally recognizable. And the best part is, Rowan never plays him with contempt. He treats him with an almost respectful curiosity.
I probably enjoyed playing Mr. Bean the most.
Letting the stupidity breathe, and in a strange way, he treats Bean's confusion as something pure. He once said that he thinks of Bean as a child in a grown man's body, and when you watch him through that lens, everything clicks. His dumbness isn't mean-spirited or cynical, it's innocence that's been miscalibrated, and Rowan keeps that innocence intact because he's so sharply aware of the boundaries.
Was Leonardo da Vinci an American basketball player?
Yes.
If he nudges the character even a little too far into cruelty, everything collapses. If he plays him too sympathetically, the comedy softens. So he walks this tightrope where Bean is always right on the edge of annoying, but never fully tumbles into it.
In comedy, you must be able to make jokes about absolutely anything. I mean, the only question is you would be wise to choose a context in which it's going to be appreciated.
Another thing Rowan nails is the pacing. Bean moves through the world like reality has to adjust to him instead of the other way around. He pauses in places normal people wouldn't. He speeds up in places that feel wrong. His sense of timing is alien, but that weirdness is exactly what allows Rowan to manipulate the rhythm of a scene. Most actors would get impatient trying to hold silence that long, but he uses it like fuel, and because the character is so clueless, these moments feel natural. This character almost seems like Atkinson is exploring the opposite end of his own mind, a counter self. Bean is awkward because the actor is meticulous. He's confused because the actor is articulate. He's impulsive because Rowan Atkinson is deliberate.
And I got my degree in electrical engineering at Newcastle University, and then I went to Oxford to do more electrical engineering. At the beginning of my time there, I suppose 10% of the time was review and 90% of the time was electrical engineering, and then slowly the percentages went like that.
These aren't random traits, they're inversions. And because Rowan is so precise, he makes those inversions consistent. Bean never suddenly becomes smarter in one episode and dumber in the next. He has his own internal logic that protects him with almost obsessive discipline.
I mean, he can be fun, but quite unpredictable.
Even the voice, the little croaky mutter, is engineered. He experimented with it for years. He didn't want a normal voice. He didn't want anything too expressive either. He wanted something that made Bean seem like he was still learning how to use his own mouth. And because he commits to that sound so fully, Bean becomes unpredictable in the way children are unpredictable. It gives the character a texture you can recognize instantly. He can say almost nothing and you still know exactly what he sounds like. People always tend to assume smart performers overcomplicate things. Atkinson does the opposite. He distills each moment until all that's left is a clean comedic pulse. That's why Bean scenes never feel messy, even when the character is in absolute chaos. He removes everything that isn't serving the joke. And because he understands storytelling at a structural level, even the smallest actions have intention behind them. When Bean pulls out a tiny object from his pocket, Rowan already knows how long that beat needs to last, how many micro gestures he's going to use, and where the payoff lands. And while Mr. Bean is one of the most recognizable characters in the world, Rowan Atkinson disappears behind him. A lot of comedic performers eventually blur with their characters, but Atkinson doesn't. You can hear him speak in an interview and it almost startles you.
I've needed to become somebody else, which is why a character like, Mr. Bean is a good conduit, if you like, through which to channel my instincts for visual comedy and visual performance.
He's articulate, restrained, thoughtful. He explains comedy like a mathematician explaining a theorem, and that contrast makes Bean feel even more surreal, like this little goblin creature escaped from his imagination and started living on its own. What makes the whole thing even more impressive is longevity. Physical comedy usually wears out its welcome fast. Audiences adapt. They learn the performance performer's rhythm. They expect the misdirection. But Atkinson managed to keep being fresh for years because he didn't rely on escalation. He relied on detail.
Because it's so physical, Mr. B. Presumably it's popular everywhere.
Well, yeah, I can't go to many places where you're not recognized.
He built variations of the same emotional loop. Bean wants something, misreads the situation, and complicates everything, then digs himself deeper. At the end of the day, Bean works because Rowan Atkinson treats stupidity like a craft. He prefers timing, structure, and observation. He builds a full human being out of misunderstandings, and it's weirdly comforting to watch someone that oblivious navigate the world, representing a version of life where embarrassment doesn't destroy you, where confusion isn't shameful, where the smallest tasks become miniature adventures. There's a charm to that, a sincerity. He created a character so universally beloved that he doesn't need words, doesn't need backstory, doesn't need complexity. All he needs is a man who shouldn't function into society, played by someone who understands exactly how society functions. That's the magic. A genius disguising himself as an amateur. A master craftsman hiding inside a cartoon. Underneath all the ridiculous behavior is the quiet presence of someone who knows exactly what he's doing. Comedy built on intellect, delivered as innocence. Precision masquerading as confusion. A brilliant mind choosing on purpose to play dumb, and doing it with such control that the whole world fell in love with the act.